Funding was provided by Friends, the Iowa Public Television Foundation.
It's a time of transition at the Golden Dome in Des Moines as scaffolding adorns this signature structure and even more changes are developing underneath. The longest-serving governor in American history is moving on to international duties, making way for the first female governor in Iowa history. It's an historic day for Iowa's transfer of power. Here is David Yepsen.
Welcome inside Iowa's Capitol building and its awe-inspiring law library. It's a busy day for the executive branch of state government as Governor Terry Branstad resigns his longtime post for a new job overseas as U.S. Ambassador to China. The role of governor moves to Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds, set to become Iowa's first female chief executive. The last time an Iowa governor left the position before term's end was all the way back in 1969, when then Governor Harold Hughes was elected to the U.S. Senate, vacating the governorship for 2 weeks to then Lieutenant Governor Robert Fulton. Today's change has much larger implications for state government and future elections. Before we go down to Governor Branstad's resignation and swearing-in ceremony, let's bring in Radio Iowa News Director Kay Henderson and the Des Moines Register's political columnist Kathy Obradovich. Kay, what are your impressions today?
Well, this is beyond notable and significant. It is truly historic. The nation's longest-serving governor is leaving to take a very notable position overseas, and Iowa gets its first female governor. She's sort of standing on the shoulders of people like Mary Louise Smith. She was a former leader of the Republican National Committee, Mary Jane Odell, elected in 1980 to be Secretary of State, and even Ola Babcock Miller, who was elected in 1932 to be Iowa's Secretary of State, albeit a Democrat.
And she started the Iowa Highway Patrol.
Exactly.
Kathy, your impressions?
You know, this today is the culmination of a very eventful 6 years in Iowa politics that really started when Terry Branstad said, hey, how about if I come back and serve as governor again? You know, he remade the Iowa GOP. He broke the record as longest-serving governor. He set in motion the ability for Joni Ernst to become Iowa's first female U.S. senator. And he remade and reimagined the lieutenant governor role and groomed Kim Reynolds to be a true successor. So really, it's been a historic 6 years.
And let's go to Governor Branstad in progress.
And the department heads and others that make state government work. Your dedication and commitment to Iowa has always inspired me. I was humbled to be recruited back to the governor's office and lead Iowa's economic comeback. And I'm proud that we have made significant accomplishments over the last 6 years and 4 months. Iowans elected us to come back and straighten up state government, and we did it. Lieutenant Governor Reynolds and our entire team have worked tirelessly to bring more and better jobs to Iowa, improve our schools, and give Iowans a smaller and smarter government. We've brought the unemployment rate down from over 6% to 3.1% today. And Iowa has the highest high school graduation rate in the entire country. We have a smaller government that is more responsive to the needs of the people. We've dramatically reduced the permitting time for job creators, and we've become one of the best managed states in the nation. Over the past 6 years and 4 months, actually 8,169 days, in case you were counting, we have worked tirelessly to deliver more jobs, higher incomes, better schools, and a smaller, smarter government for the people of Iowa. We've worked together to improve our business climate, cut taxes, improve career prospects for our teachers, reduce the costs of health care, protect the unborn, and safeguard our most dearly held freedoms. As I become the next United States ambassador to the People's Republic of China, I'm proud of what we've accomplished here in Iowa. Iowa is positioned for opportunity and growth, and I'm confident that our next government, that our next governor, is well prepared to lead Iowa to an even brighter future. No one has been better prepared to become governor than Kim Reynolds. I'm thankful for the friendships that we have made throughout the 99 counties of Iowa, friendships that we will always cherish. And I'm grateful for the prayers from Iowans who have encouraged me along the way. There's no better job in the world than being governor of the state that you love. But sometimes we're called to serve in ways that we never imagined. And now I'm pleased to present my letter of resignation as I prepare for this exciting new adventure as the United States Ambassador to the People's Republic of China. So here it is. Okay?
Very well. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Terry E. Branstad, do solemnly swear
I, Terry E. Branstad, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
and
that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
on which I am about to enter. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, if you would sign the appointment affidavit to make it official.
Okay. Okay, Judge Collin, thank you very much.
Very good.
Okay, I think that takes care of it. Thank you very much.
Well, that takes care of it.
This goes to Paul Bates.
Final words. Nice classic Terry Branstad way of doing business. He leaves office now and is our new ambassador to China. It's a proud day for the Branstads and a happy day for Republicans. But the story, the political story, moves on. And that's where I'd like to go with our conversation here between now and when Governor Reynolds takes her oath of office. As you look at the campaign and the politics ahead, is Kim Reynolds the front runner to win a full term on her own? Okay.
Yes, she has the strength of the party behind her, even though they will not officially endorse in the primary. Cedar Rapids Mayor Ron Corbett, coincidentally, is in Des Moines today. He met with a group of conservatives in West Des Moines to stake out his vision. He's made it pretty clear that he is almost on the verge of deciding to run. He's raised money. But she is the prohibitive favorite. She's already raised more than $1 million. And in a conversation with me and Radio Iowa yesterday, she indicated she's not afraid to ask for money. She thinks that's a way of showing that you believe in yourself and that you want others to believe in you by investing in you. So if people think that, because she's new on the scene, she doesn't have, the skill set or the toolbox to do this, she certainly does.
The power of the incumbency still means something in Iowa. We've had a lot of turmoil in politics, but people do, and I think they will see her as the governor by the time she stands up before the voters again in November. She does face challenges, however. This last legislative session and the national political scene has helped re-energize Democrats, and I've noticed a lot of people re-engaging in politics who have not really been involved in the past. And so I think that she is going to have some turbulent political waves to deal with as she is trying to make her case that she can be Iowa's next governor.
And one of the challenges she faces is to come out of the shadow and be her own person. One of the things that we just heard Terry Branstad say, he made a reference to our next government and our next governor. I mean, she has to make some changes. She has to do things differently to distinguish herself from just a Terry Branstad clone, if you will.
Well, go ahead.
Well, she's not going to be a Terry Branstad clone. I think that she has been very reluctant up until now to articulate any sort of difference or have even an inch of space between her and Terry Branstad. But as soon as he's in China, I think that, first of all, events are going to force her to make some changes. The federal government may be cutting a lot of money that is coming to Iowa. We've got healthcare issues, we've got other issues, and events are going to force her to make some changes. But even beyond that, I think that she probably has her own ideas and ways of doing things. She's just going to roll them out in her own time.
Well, and she's been a good, loyal lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. You don't expect a lieutenant governor and a vice president to differ with the boss. That's called making news, getting off the reservation.
Exactly.
Go back to the Republican primary that she may have with Ron Corbett. Will there be somebody, Kathy, also from the more conservative side of the party? She had a rough go when the governor put her on the ticket. Back in 2010, as I recall. As the party conservatives, are the party conservatives on board with Kim Reynolds now?
The party conservatives have been on board with Terry Branstad, and he really was able to, especially after his first term, bring the party conservatives together, kind of push out the libertarian wing of the party, and really stick together even behind Donald Trump, who the evangelicals did not support at first. So I think that whether Kim Reynolds can keep that coalition together is an open question at this point. I have not seen a lot of people from the right jumping up and starting to make early moves toward running. But that doesn't mean there won't be some opportunistic, folks who are, looking to make a name. So we'll see.
She's got a difficult needle to thread here, and we're going to start to see her do that in a few minutes in her speech. I mean, she's got to keep the party conservatives happy and keep the Branstad people happy. At the same time, she starts to carve out her own identity. And to do so in a year that's going to be pretty tough for Republicans. I mean, history teaches that the off-year election for the party in power is very difficult. Donald Trump's job approval rating is something like 38% now. The Democrats are very excited about their prospects. Kay, can she thread that needle?
It will be made even more difficult by what Kathy just alluded to, the fact that the budget is going to be extremely difficult to deal with. Iowa's economy seems to be sort of in a status quo holding pattern. So the kind of growth that one would need from the state's economy to bankroll some of the priority issues she's already identified in conversations with many of us previously, namely tax reform. That's going to be really difficult to do in this kind of economic environment.
But it depends on who the Democrats are going to be able to put up against her as well. And we've got right now a big field for a primary. Frankly, having a primary would be good for Kim Reynolds as well. She might benefit from having more than one opponent in a primary. But Democrats are rebuilding right now. It remains to be seen whether they're going to be up to speed in order to challenge somebody as well-funded and potentially as well-backed as Kim Reynolds is going to be in 2018.
Do Democrats have such a divisive primary ahead of them, though, that their chances are not going to be very good?
Well, I think back to 1998 when Terry Branstad exited the scene before. There was a really divisive primary among Democrats, and there was a lot of elbowing in that primary, and Tom Vilsack emerged as an unknown and was able to secure the governorship in that environment. So a lot of times practice makes perfect, and and going up against other people and having to explain your vision, it is good practice for the general election.
And the way Democrats describe it to me is they're comparing it to Terry Branstad leaving the stage. They're comparing that to Tom Harkin leaving the stage, which was really difficult for Democrats to make that transition. They made the point, you can't take Tom Harkin's decades of relationships and political operation and organization and just hand it over to somebody else just because they have the keys, to Grandpa's Chevrolet or whatever, and Terry Branstad, it may be the same way that, Kim Reynolds won't be able to just inherit the car along with Terrace Hill.
We just want our viewers to know that the soon-to-be governor, Kim Reynolds, is going to speak soon, so please stay with us. We'll go right to that when that happens. Kathy, is a primary going to be, would that be not only a good deal for Democrats, but maybe for her in terms of honing her campaign operation? If she's got Ron Corbett coming at her as a moderate, this will make her look good with conservatives. If she's got a conservative coming at her from a right, that can make her look good with moderates and centrist Iowans. Maybe a primary isn't going to be so bad for Kim Reynolds.
I honestly do think because she has been through a couple of these campaigns, but not as the primary candidate. She is going to have to build some of her own campaign staff, kick the tires on her message, figure out what works best for her as the candidate, as opposed to standing next to Terry Branstad. And so I do think a contested primary would help her. And with Democrats, they are trying very hard to send the message that they want everybody to avoid personal attacks. I heard one Democrat say, well, the first person who goes negative in a personal way is going to be eliminated right away, because Democrats feel like the stakes are too high for that kind of thing. I don't necessarily believe that the first person that goes Democrat negative in a personal way is going to be eliminated. Yeah. But, that's what they're trying to do.
The other thing here is that having a primary would be helpful because, honestly, the three of us know who she is and everyone in this building today does. But Iowans have no opinion of who she is. A lot of them have never heard of her. And having a campaign and going out having to introduce yourself to people as the governor would be helpful to introduce herself to Iowans in her own way, rather than being in the shadow of Terry Branstad.
And that's why her speech that we're going to see here in a
Right.
few minutes, we're going to go live to it when it happens, is really the beginning of her trying to define herself,
Right.
who she is and who she isn't. And it's something that a lot of Iowans really haven't seen. For oftentimes she's been seen as standing behind him, and her detractors would say she looks like a bobblehead doll. And so this is a chance for her to move to the front.
In my conversation with her yesterday, she articulated her leadership style, And one of the things she said was really remarkable. I don't think many people in this building would think of her as a dog with a bone and not let go, but that's sort of the way she described her leadership style. If I believe in something, don't get in my way because I am going 110% to achieve it.
I think she also likes to be ultra prepared, and that may be a confidence factor. She does not like to be caught flat-footed, especially in public. She got burned early on with when she was just named as lieutenant governor and giving answers that she probably wasn't prepared for, and she learned her lesson and no more of that. So I think that will also help shape how she appears to the public. Inevitably, somebody's going to ask her a question in public that she maybe hasn't prepared an answer. So we'll have to see how she deals with that.
Let's switch from politics to policy. And I want to go over some of the issues that are on her plate. She's likely to talk about them some in this speech. She talks about them in the interview I did yesterday with her, which will air after the speech. But let's just go through some of these. Water quality. The Governor Branstad said biggest thing he didn't get done. But at the same time, Kim Reynolds is saying she does not want to raise the sales tax a half a penny to try to pay for this. Kathy, do you think you can have a water quality bill in Iowa without some big new revenue in it?
She has indicated that she thought that the legislature had gotten close to it this year. They were basically repurposing some money that came in from fees. It's not probably going to be enough money. It's not going to satisfy everybody. But I think she's looking at the legislative reality and this Republican legislature and realizing that they're not going to approve a sales tax. So she's going to have to find some other revenue.
This issue is white hot. There are a few issues that I've seen that have divided Iowans like this, the emotion on both sides, the vindictiveness that we've seen. How can she bridge the gap? Does she even try? Governor Branstad sided pretty clearly with the production, agriculture, and rural interests in this water quality debate. Kim Reynolds is governor of all the people. So how does she come up with a package that helps urban Iowans, assure them that their water is clean, and really all Iowans for that matter, but also does not stick it to production agriculture?
This is going to be a very difficult nut to crack here for her because she's going to have to work with legislators and get legislators on board. And the defeat of the bill that happened in this very building was remarkable in that you couldn't even get Republicans to agree on sort of a piecemeal approach to this issue. So getting a long-term funding stream for water quality initiatives is going to be a pretty heavy lift, especially in an election year.
One asset that she has that we haven't talked about is her husband, Kevin, who has spent his career in soil and water conservation. I think that she has indicated to me that she thinks he will go around the state and listen to people and have that be a project that he brings back to her. And, she may, along with his help, come up with some new ideas on this topic.
But I go back 2 years ago. Terry Branstad in this building brought in former Governor Tom Vilsack, and the both of them boasted and touted the plan that Terry Branstad laid on the table for legislators, and it went nowhere. This is a very, very difficult political issue.
But that would be, Kathy, an interesting way for her to use her husband. Office holders always have the issue of how do we use our spouse, how do you use a first lady in Washington, how do you use the first lady here, to put him on the road dealing with water quality.
The first gentleman.
The first gentleman, that's
Yes,
right,
yeah.
that's right. Let's health policy issues. Medicaid and how we pay for that, mental health, the opioid crisis, and medical marijuana. I mean, 4 really big issues. How does she come out on those?
And it just got infinitely more difficult by what's going on at the federal level because the state's going to get less from the federal government to manage and finance these programs. At the same time, they're going to get more flexibility with the money that they do get from the federal government are the signals that we're sending. So whatever they do, they can't say, oh, those federal rules made us do it. she's going to own whatever happens on these particular issues, and that could be a real liability in an election year.
Well, there's already a lot of bad blood over the privatization and managed care in Medicaid, and she was part of that process. You know, it wasn't necessarily her responsibility, but she's not going to be able to walk away from that. And now we're compounding that with what is probably going to be a lot less federal money, but more responsibility. And so, you know, I think that she is going to have to get some people on board with her who are really on board and have a lot of knowledge about this issue. And she's going to have to, again, spend time hearing about what problems Iowans have and how they're going to be able to work through this.
And the other caveat I would add was I have heard Terry Branstad, after the November election, just chortle at Democrats who tried to make this a huge issue in legislative races. And so his belief is that this is not a voting issue for Iowans.
It may be a mobilizing issue. It wasn't
Exactly.
in the face of the Trump landslide, it wasn't. But the Republicans own the Statehouse, they own the nation's capital. They're going to be on the hook with a lot of voters to try to come up with something.
And you mentioned opioid addiction. This is an issue that is ballooning. You know, Iowa has had more problems with meth than we have with opioids, but we are starting to see that come into the state. And once it happens really fast. And so that is something that if we, you know, here in Iowa are waiting for a problem to flash up, we're probably going to be behind the curve.
I know it's interesting that the opioid crisis is now increasing the death rate of rural white Americans, something we had never anticipated happening in this country. Kay, talk about the Department of Human Services. She alluded in the interview that I did with her that some personnel changes may be in the offing, but she didn't want to really talk specifics. But there's a real crisis with these foster care children dying of starvation, and what do they do about it?
Leadership changes in the department, I would suspect, are looming, at least on some level, because somebody has to be held to account for these very tragic instances in which children who were adopted were apparently, according to the criminal complaints, abused mightily by their adoptive parents and homeschooled. And there will be a push from legislators not only to change the Department of Human Services, but to change some of the rules for homeschooling families in Iowa. A couple of years ago, they no longer have as many connections with their local school district. Legislators may try to reestablish those checks as sort of welfare checks
And
for those kids.
a lot of social conservatives will not want that to happen, and that'll be a different.
And as soon as we start looking at the workload for these DHS caseworkers, you start looking at the amount of money we're spending there. And again, you know, we're in a period where we're cutting, cutting government budgets, and it's going to be really hard, I think, to reconcile the idea that we're going to have fewer state employees, and yet somehow we're going to get a handle on this issue statewide. We went through this with the Shelby Dumas case a number of years ago, where caseworkers just didn't have the hours to check on all of these cases.
Well, another very controversial issue that's going to be back for the legislature are abortion rules.
Right.
Kay, how does the new governor negotiate those shoals?
Well, when the governor signed earlier this month the ban on abortions after the 20th week of pregnancy, most of the people who were in the room to celebrate that milestone will be right back here at the legislature in January asking them to go farther. And frankly, there are many Republicans in both the Senate and the House who wanted to go farther this year. So this will be a test of the conservatives' relationship with Kim Reynolds and how she responds to it, if she will approve additional restrictions on
But
abortion.
also the relationship with the House Speaker, Linda Upmeyer, who did not really particularly want to pass abortion legislation just to be a test court case. She wanted to focus on things that could be effective in Iowa and pass constitutional muster. They didn't quite get there with that 20-week ban. So, there are some folks who have said, they don't want to spend their precious legislative time on something that is just going to end up in court.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot of them say, we've done that, let's see how the new law works, let's move on to other things, one of which is tax reform. They're looking at repealing federal deductibility, which is a big change for Republicans, lowering the tax rates and fewer rates. She indicated, though, in the interview I did with her, that she wants a tax cut to be part of this. Kathy, you think we're in for a tax cut? The state's running on fumes as it is.
Yeah, I think she's looking at what it's going to take to make this legislatively possible, especially in the Iowa Senate, where they came in, saying they're going to kick in the doors and they're going to have, a major income tax cut. The problem is that when you want to flatten the tax rate, you want to take away people's exemptions and deductions, you need some money to help ease that the sandpaper that people are going to feel when they're losing some things that they like, and so that is going to be difficult. And also, Iowa's big problem is not necessarily the tax code. The problem is lack of skilled workers. And, when you're looking to bring in companies, they are looking at their costs to train people, et cetera. And so training workers costs money, right? And so they're going to have to decide what their priorities are.
Yeah, they have to put some money into higher education and K through 12 if they want to provide for a skilled workforce. I don't know is there any way out of this for her to make everybody happy with cutting taxes, reducing spending, and yet coming up with more money for education?
She's casting it as a competitiveness issue, mainly, in that Iowa's top tax rate looks horrific because of this federal deductibility issue that you mentioned, David. And so if the one accomplishment of the tax reform plan that clears the legislature is to lower that rate and reduce the number of brackets, that might be a stopgap measure. And then Kim Reynolds' candidate seeking re-election in 2018 can tell Iowa voters, hey, we started the tax reform, please re-elect me to finish it.
Starting tomorrow, she gets a big political controversy on her plate, and that is this question of can she pick her own lieutenant governor. Kay, what do you hear?
I hear that she will be selecting a lieutenant governor to replace her, and that it will happen at 10 o'clock in the formal office tomorrow. If you look back over the history of Terry Branstad's time in office, particularly in the last 7 or so years, there are very few instances where the threat of court action stopped him from doing something he wanted to do. He closed some state institutions. He got rid of the workforce development offices. Ultimately, the court in that case said he didn't have the authority to do it, but he'd already done it. So this may set up a court challenge, but I haven't seen anything to indicate that they're not willing to go right up to that line.
It's kind of a legitimacy issue. If she can't appoint a lieutenant governor, it might make people feel like, well, she's not really the governor then. She doesn't have all of the authority and trappings of office. So I think that political downside makes it worth taking the political risk of perhaps violating the Constitution with one of her first acts. And I agree with Kay, there's very little political consequence or penalty over the years for Terry Branstad when he has been yanked short by the court.
And yet, here we go. All these issues we've just talked about, massive issues, and right out of the box, we're going to have a political knife fight at the Statehouse over whether or not she has the authority to appoint a lieutenant governor.
Exactly.
Yeah, this rolls into the Attorney General's race as well in 2018. Tom Miller initially gave an off-the-cuff sort of informal opinion that he thought it would be fine if Kim Reynolds picked a lieutenant governor, and then he received a formal request for an opinion. He did all the research and changed his mind. That did not sit well with Kim Reynolds or Terry Branstad.
And remember, Terry Branstad told us in December, as did Donald Trump, that he's leaving for China, and she's had months to prepare for this moment. And she had interviewed people and set plans in motion. And there was no indication that they wanted to set those plans aside.
What happened in the Attorney General's office? Tom Miller is usually a pretty meticulous guy. I mean, for him to say one thing and then come out with an opinion the other was pretty uncharacteristic of the way he's been Attorney General.
I can't get in the mind of the Attorney General, but I'm told that he was swayed by the arguments of sort of a council that he set up to review historical precedent, and they talked him into changing his position.
Is there any talk of having the legislature go into this and start with some cleanup language in the code, maybe another constitutional amendment?
If you listen to the Attorney General's opinion, it will require a constitutional change. We already have a law that says she can do this.
Yeah, the code is pretty clear, and I think that, again, that bolsters her argument that she can point to that section of code and say, look, we follow the law. You know, and if somebody, there's always laws on the books that somebody could challenge in court.
And it's odd legal precedent in that he says technically she's the governor and the lieutenant governor. Yes. There's another part of legal precedent that says you can't hold two offices at the same time if you're the governor. So it's a very strange thing.
She should ask for two paychecks.
Exactly. The Attorney General was asked, does she get to have both paychecks? And he said no.
Okay, before we leave the question of Lieutenant Governor, any names floating around the building on who
There certainly is, and it adds to the drama about this Tom Miller opinion. The person who ran against Tom Miller 3 years ago, Adam Gregg, is the person who is rumored to be her top choice.
We have a graphic we want to share with you of Iowa's recent past governors so we can visit a little bit about where Kim Reynolds will fit in Iowa history. Go back to Bob Ray, Terry Branstad, who is just leaving for a second time, Tom Vilsack, Chet Culver, and then Governor Branstad again. How's she going to fit in the great sweep of things?
Well, I mean, she is, I think, a new kind of Republican in the sense of she is not as well known as any of those gentlemen probably were by the time they took office. With the possible exception of of Tom Vilsack. She, I think, is, because her governorship is historic, she brings something to the job that none of those other gentlemen had, and that is perhaps an extra burden, but also an extra opportunity, I think, to pave a different way. So I am looking forward to seeing what she's going to do with that opportunity.
The other five faces that I think of are the 5 lieutenant governors in our most recent past, all women, and now a woman is ascending to the top job. And back to this previous discussion, if she doesn't pick a lieutenant governor, Democrats will find it hard to complain because she'll go out and tell people she's having to do 2 jobs, like most women.
Like most women. That's good.
What sort of challenges is she going to face, the first woman? How will she be viewed?
Well, it's the horrible thing that every woman in public life faces. People will talk about what she wears, which is ridiculous. People will talk about the tenor of her voice. I'm a broadcaster. It wasn't until the World War II that women really got their foothold in broadcasting because women were told that people didn't like to listen to women's voices on the radio. And so she's going to face those kind of hurdles that men would not face.
She has a good role model, though, in her good friend Joni Ernst. You know, they came from the same part of the state. It was actually Kim Reynolds who encouraged Joni Ernst to run for Reynolds' seat when she left the state Senate to be lieutenant governor. And Joni Ernst has been blazing the trail now as Iowa's first female senator. I think that she will turn to Joni probably for some advice on that.
Look for an advertisement with a gun, maybe.
Well, it's not all bad to be seen as a change agent. You know, certainly the men in public policy have made a hash of things. Being seen as a change, something different. I think that certainly worked for Joni Ernst.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things she emphasizes is that she listens to people. And that is supposed to be true of women in government as well.
Well, the swearing-in ceremony for the 43rd governor in Iowa history, Kim Reynolds, is set to begin in the Capitol Rotunda. We'll be back with a one-on-one interview with Iowa's new governor after the ceremony. In the meantime, let's look in on an historic day for state government.
This is truly a day of great excitement. We are here to celebrate the years of service for our nation's longest-serving governor, Governor Branstad. Governor Branstad has led our state during times of great prosperity and has also gracefully led during those difficult times. I will always appreciate his can-do attitude, his steady hand, and his deeply held love for the people of Iowa. We now wish him well in his new role representing Iowa and our nation as ambassador to China. Friends, we are also here today to swear in and celebrate the next governor of the state of Iowa, Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds. Lieutenant Governor Reynolds has demonstrated time and time again her unwavering dedication and her love for the people of Iowa as well. Her day-to-day service as a partner with Governor Branstad has prepared her well and has demonstrated through her actions that she is, in fact, a proven leader. Again, welcome today in this exciting time. It's a time that we look on the horizon for the new challenges before us and the great new opportunities that we all have as a people here in Iowa. So as we begin our program today, please join with me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, the brave, the brave.
You can sit down now. Good morning once again, and welcome everyone to our beautiful state capitol. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in our state's history as we welcome Kim Reynolds as our next governor. Women from across our state are watching today as the first woman in Iowa history becomes governor. Kim Reynolds will serve as yet another inspiration to future generations of women who can imagine themselves in positions of leadership never before held by a woman. Over the last 6 years, we've worked together on many initiatives and reforms that have moved our state forward, and they've benefited countless Iowans. I've seen her develop as a leader as she's taken on some of Iowa's most important issues, issues that make Iowa a great place to work, live, and raise a family. Her experience tackling those tough issues and also her passion to improve the lives of Iowans gives me such confidence that with Kim Reynolds leading our state, Iowa's best days lie ahead. Please join me in welcoming my friend, Iowa's 43rd Governor, Kim Reynolds.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kimberly K. Reynolds,
I, Kimberly K. Reynolds,
do solemnly swear
that I'll support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties incumbent upon the office of Governor in the State of Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law. Congratulations.
Mr. Ambassador, Mrs. Branstad, Mr. Chief Justice, Justices and Judges, Majority Leader Dix, Speaker Upmeyer, legislative leaders, legislators, elected officials, family, friends, and fellow Iowans. I am incredibly honored to stand before you this morning as the governor of this great state. Ambassador Branstad and Mrs. Branstad, thank you for your unselfish and historic service to this great state. There are really no words to describe the honor that I've had serving with you over the past 6 years. but if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'd like to try. First, Governor, Ambassador, I'm going to take a while to get used to that. Thank you so much for having the confidence in me to serve as your Lieutenant Governor. Every single step of the way, you have inspired me and challenged me. You have believed in me, sometimes more than I believed in myself. And that first trade mission to China and South Korea, 6 months on the job, was one indication of that confidence that you bestowed on me. You've been more than a mentor. You've been a friend and someone I go to for advice. Your competitive nature is contagious. 99 counties every year, and I fought him to the end, but he always came in first. The Governor's Celebrity Steer Show, where we both have won. Iowa's leadership in the country and around the world, and the fact that you've never lost an election. I've watched time and time again you do the right thing, regardless of politics or some unbelievable pressure. And if I can achieve but a fraction of the successes that you've achieved over the past 22 years, I will consider it the greatest accomplishment of my professional life. We worked hard, we had fun, and we made a difference. So while I have some pretty tough shoes to fill, I am really excited to step into my heels and on behalf of Iowa, work hard every single day. While today marks the closing of an important era for Iowa, it is also the beginning of an opportunity for both of you. We are so proud to see you take our Iowa values to the world stage. I cannot think of a better couple, more uniquely qualified to take on this new adventure. So if the two of you would please rise so we can all share our gratitude to what you have done and your service to Iowa. To my husband, Kevin, and our 3 daughters and their families, thank you for your unending encouragement, support, and love. To my mom and dad, you've always been there for me, pushing me forward or lifting me up when I needed it most. From school events to my days on the court with 6-on-6 basketball, to finally getting my degree at age 57, I can't even remember a single time when you weren't there. To my 8 and soon-to-be grandchildren, it's gonna be a busy couple of years, but I want you to know that there is nothing more important to me than all of you and my family. I love you all so much. You know, I love this state and what it represents. I'm a rural Iowa girl who grew up in a small community, was able to run for county office, to serve as the state senator, as your lieutenant governor, and now to serve as the governor of this state. It's so reflective of what can happen in this state when you have a passion, you want to make a difference, and you're not afraid to go out there and work for it. I'm a 5th-generation Iowan, born and raised in St. Charles. So it's a small town, but it had a big impact on my life. Growing up in St. Charles, I learned the importance of community and love of country, of hard work and discipline, of fiscal responsibility and penny pinching. But most importantly, I learned to place my faith in God. There weren't a lot of jobs for teenagers in St. Charles, Iowa, so every weekend I would head to Des Moines, where I worked as a waitress at Yonkers. So if anybody's done that, which several of us had, you know that waitressing is hard work. But you know what else? If you turn those tables, you can make some pretty good money. So I did just that, serving chicken dinners to Iowans after church on Sundays. After Kevin and I were married, I worked as a checker at Hy-Vee. And oh, by the way, if you want to see some real penny pinching in action, spend a day checking out groceries to Iowans. In this state, we grew up learning the value of the dollar and not to waste it, a lesson I intend to apply every day as your governor. So I didn't set out to become a politician or an elected official, but when the Clark County Treasurer decided to retire in 1994, I saw an opportunity to take my ideas and to turn them into action. And that meant breaking down barriers, sometimes literally. So in the Clark County Treasurer's office, there was a wall that split the office in half. It made it difficult to work together, to understand each other's responsibilities, and to serve our customers. And it got in the way of what I was wanting to accomplish. So within weeks of taking office, I decided that it needed to come down. So I floated the idea to the Board of Supervisors, and they didn't care if I took down that wall. They just weren't going to pay for it. So like many Iowans, I had to think creatively. And in this case, that involved my husband, some friends, a sledgehammer, and a wheelbarrow. So over the weekend, we tore down the wall, piece by piece, covered in dust from toe to toe. But listen, the office was open for business. When my team showed up on Monday, they couldn't believe the change. With the wall gone, we could collaborate and exchange ideas like never before. And that meant that we could better serve the people of Clark County, take on additional services like issuing driver's license from the Treasurer's office. After 14 years in the Treasurer's office, I was honored to be elected to the state Senate. When I arrived in the legislature, I was a freshman in the minority party. I knew if I wanted to get anything done, it was going to require me to reach across the aisle. But that came easy to me because I'd learned it from my grandfather. He was an FDR Democrat, so we saw the world a little differently. But as we would sit around the kitchen table, we would debate, even disagree, but always with respect for each other's view. Where I come from, party label didn't matter nearly as much as getting the job done. I took that same approach with me to the legislature, which meant bringing people together to work on behalf of Iowans. So one small example is how we worked across the aisle to enact a law that allowed Iowans to pay their court fines at the Treasurer's office. So that may sound simple, but it meant that Iowans could restore their suspended driver's license, legally drive, and go to work and take care of their families. That bill passed with bipartisan support, and it was a great example of common sense legislation that Iowans expect. In the summer of 2010, I received a call that would forever change my life and the lives of my family, and it led to a whole new level of public service. So never in my wildest dreams did I believe that a young girl growing up in St. Charles, Iowa, would one day receive a call from Terry Branstad, asking her to be the Lieutenant Governor of Iowa. Since that time, we've partnered toward a common purpose with a sincere belief that Iowa's best days were ahead. As your Lieutenant Governor, I've traveled the world representing Iowa, working to expand our markets while bringing investment and jobs to our state. I've worked on policy that attracts, retains, and expands high-tech firms and fosters growth all across Iowa. We've seen over almost $14 billion of capital investment in our state, which represents a choice companies made to invest in Iowa, to grow in Iowa, and to join our community of leaders. We created pathways for Iowans to find careers that will keep them in Iowa. We focused on apprenticeships, skilled worker training, and actively supported statewide economic development. We gave hardworking taxpayers a seat at the table, made it more affordable to own and operate a business, restored liberties, protected life, and made it more attractive for doctors in Iowa. We modernized our education system, and while our graduation rate is #1 in the nation, we must not let up. So there's probably something else you should know about me. I'm never satisfied with the status quo, and a desire to make a difference is what drives me every day. Part of being a successful leader is listening and looking for opportunities to bring people together. While we've had many successes, our job is not done. So know that each day, my team and I will ask ourselves, what can we do to build a better Iowa? Let's move toward this shared goal together. Let's make Iowa more competitive, bringing quality jobs to our families, neighbors, and communities. Building a fair economy where if you work hard, you get rewarded. My vision for our great state embraces the past, and it builds on a better and brighter future. As governor, I will focus every day on 4 key priorities: reforming Iowa's tax structure, innovating our energy policy, educating our kids, and workforce training for adults. So let's talk about my first priority, reforming Iowa's tax structure. There is no doubt that we can do better. Our tax rates are some of the highest in the nation. Our code books are filled with a patchwork of exemptions, deductions, and credits. And that's not how it should be. Our tax code should be simple, it should be fair, and it should inspire, not inhibit growth. Because the bottom line is this: a simple, more competitive tax code makes it easier for businesses to grow and expand, and creates lasting careers for middle-class Iowans. While we are blessed to have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation, there are still more than 50,000 people looking for work today. These are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, looking for a better life. As governor, I will wake up every day thinking about what we can do to help these Iowans gain the meaning and the purpose that comes with earning a paycheck. My second priority is innovating Iowa's energy policy. We must view our rich, renewable resources in ways we never thought possible. For years, our fields have fed the world. Now they energize it. They produce products that fuel cars, and they host wind turbines that power our communities and businesses. And yet those fields are filled with untapped potential. Our energy plan will help us continue to lead the way in wind energy and renewable fuels. Working together, we can have the most innovative energy policy in the country. My third priority is educating our children. Our children need and deserve an education that meets the demands of the 21st century, focusing on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, ensuring our best teachers stay in the classroom, and renewing Iowa's emphasis on literacy. Students and parents want educators and employers working together, providing real-world learning experiences. We've already seen innovation in classrooms and schools spreading across the state, from Iowa Big North to Pella Career Academy to the Luss Hills Coding Elementary in Sioux City. And that's just the beginning. Let's take these pockets of innovation statewide. My fourth priority is training Iowans with the skills that they need for the jobs of the future. Future Ready Iowa will connect Iowa's efforts in education, workforce, training, and economic development. Our goal is that by 2025, 70% of Iowa's workforce will have education or training beyond high school. We're going to build an Iowa where hardworking middle-class families can live anywhere in our state and have the skills that they need to find successful careers. This is about opportunity for more Iowans. Building a better Iowa also means connecting Iowa to the world by expanding high-speed internet access regardless of the size and location of the town. A connected community means better jobs, safer communities, better education, and a better quality of life. And it really is the expectation of our young people. As your governor, I won't stop working until every Iowan, no matter where they live, has the same opportunity to succeed, have a satisfying career, raise their family, and have a great quality of life. It won't be easy, but I know I'm not going to be doing this alone. I am so grateful for my faith, my family, an incredible team, friends, neighbors, and Iowans in all 99 counties standing beside me. I am especially grateful to the people of Clark County for giving me a second chance when I needed it most. I'm a better person today because of their ongoing encouragement, support, and prayers. I'm not perfect, I'm not infallible, but I am an Iowan through and through. So lastly, I will leave it to the historians to write what they will about the meaning of this day in the story of Iowa. Becoming Iowa's first woman governor is both humbling and exciting. I will do my best to serve as a role model for others to follow and hope to emulate the finest qualities of those who led before me. However, it is my responsibility, my challenge to do my best to give them the opportunity to write much more then she was Iowa's first woman governor. While I am extremely proud of that fact, there needs to be more to it. I am confident that with your help and support, we can build on the good things accomplished over the past 6 years. We can pursue a bold vision of innovation, ingenuity, and growth, such that our chapter in the history of Iowa will be filled with great accomplishments, with page upon page about how we made Iowa an even better place to live, work, innovate, create, and raise a family. And then, if they must, they can add at the end of the chapter, oh, and by the way, she was also Iowa's first woman governor. Today, I stand before you as your humble servant and governor. Thank you. May God bless you. May God bless this great state of Iowa and our country. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you.
Well, those grandkids are going to have a lot of fun in that Terrace Hill Governor's Mansion. Kim Reynolds is now the 43rd governor in Iowa history. We sat down with Iowa's first female governor to discuss her background and vision for Iowa's future, a journey she is just beginning. Governor, thank you for giving us some time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've got a statewide audience, and so I wanted to give this an opportunity to you to talk to the people of Iowa. A lot of people know who you are, but they don't know that much about you. So, who is Kim Reynolds?
Well, you know, I think I represent Iowa. I'm an Iowan through and through. I grew up in a small town in south central Iowa, St. Charles, Iowa. It was about a town of 500 people. My dad worked at John Deere, and we farmed on top of that. My mom was a work-from-home mom, and she's very sensitive to how I describe that. She kind of kept everything running. I grew up walking beans and working at Yonkers and playing every single sport imaginable. I loved basketball and softball. So in between playing sports and any activity that I could be involved in, tried to make a little money on the side.
Right.
Had an opportunity to, Kevin and I have been married for 35 years.
Okay.
We have 3 grown daughters who are all married. I'm so happy to say that they all live in Iowa. 2 are in Earlham and 1 is in Waukee. And most importantly, we have 8 grandchildren, soon to be 9. I spent a big chunk of my career in the local government area. I served as the Clark County Treasurer for 14 years. I kind of grew up in the Clark County Treasurer's office, Osceola, Iowa. That's where Kevin and I still live today and raised our family. I was very involved in the County Treasurers Association, but I think part of being a good leader is encouraging new people to get involved, and so then ran for the Senate, and got a call from the governor to ask if I would be lieutenant governor.
Here you are today. Well, another question that people have on their minds is, how is she going to be different from Terry Branstad?
You know,
How do you answer that?
Well, I get asked that all the time, and so the funny thing is I've never focused on that. We have always, we've had our goals in place, and we've worked every day trying to make Iowa a great place to live, work, and raise a family. And so while there's a lot of similarities, our style may be a little bit different. I come from the local government background, so I've had an opportunity to serve at the local level in the state Senate and now in the executive branch. I always say, though, there's one thing where there won't be any difference, and that's we're going to work every day to make sure that we can grow our economy and have opportunities for Iowans no matter where they live in the state. And so that's something I'm going to continue to focus on, and I'm proud of what we've been able to do, but look forward to continuing to work on that.
You anticipate my first question about issues. We had a lot of issues, but jobs in the economy are always at the top of the list for people in Iowa. How do you go about creating more jobs and improving the state economy?
Well, it's about creating an environment where business and industry have the confidence to invest. We have so many positive things happening in the state. We've seen almost $14 billion of private capital investment since we took office. That's investment happening all over the state of Iowa. The statistic that I really like when we talk about that, and that's just what's been incentivized through economic development, so there's all kinds of other growth happening also, but 80% of that $14 billion came from businesses that had already made the decision to locate in Iowa, and they felt confident in their state government and in the environment that they felt confident in growing and expanding. So it's building on the assets that we have, our central location in the United States. It's a workforce second to none. It's our low cost of energy, and really reducing taxes and regulation. So there's more that we can do, but we've done a good job, I think, over the last 6 years of really creating a pro-growth environment, pro-business environment that can really help Iowans get the careers that they deserve.
Governor Branstad was always fond of giving us a metric. He wanted to create 200,000 jobs. Have you got a metric for us to use on your success in trying to create jobs and improve the economy? What measurements do we use?
Well, we're going to, tomorrow, I'm going to talk about my journey till today. I'm going to kind of introduce myself to Iowans. I'm going to lay out 4 priorities that are, it's not the end-all be-all, but it's kind of the direction that we'll take this next administration under my leadership. And then what I'm going to do is travel Iowa like I've always done and sit down with community leaders all across this state and talk to them about what we're doing right and what we can do different and how can we be a partner in helping them be successful and keep their main streets vibrant and growing. And so we're going to put all of that together, and hopefully I'll have some metrics when it comes to the condition of the state next year.
Another issue that's on the minds of a lot of people in Iowa, it's probably the most divisive issue in our state right now, is the issue of water quality.
Yep.
What are you going to do about that?
Well, I'm optimistic that we'll get something done this next session. I'm going to work with legislators and stakeholders over the interim. Over the last 2 legislative sessions, we've had great, significant water quality bills passed, both chambers, with bipartisan support. We just couldn't get them in like versions and get them to the governor's desk. So it's important that we've got a great program in place, a strategy in place with a nutrient reduction strategy, and we need to make sure that we have a dedicated long-term source of funding so that we can scale the programs that are working.
Is it finally time to impose that half-cent sales tax increase?
Well, I think we can do it without raising taxes, and so we're going to continue to work with legislators over the interim, figure out where we can find some compromise and move forward. There's a lot of similarities, so I think we're narrowing the differences. We just need to get everyone around the table and figure out a way that we can get that done.
Governor, let me push you on that. There are a lot of people who say the voters of Iowa approved that tax, that it should exist, and that we do have a crying need for new dollars to go into some of these programs, technology and research. How can you do this without additional dollars?
Well, it needs to be a priority, and it will be. Even with a really tight budget year, and this was a tough legislative session. The REC had downgraded the revenue 4 straight times, and so we believe there is a way that we can put long-term funding in place that we can really scale the programs that are working through the nutrient reduction strategy. So again, we need to sit down over the interim, figure out what that looks like, and hopefully we can get something done with the next legislative session. I think Iowans want us to do something, to help ensure that we maintain a great quality of life that we have here in Iowa, and they really do believe that it's important, and I think, you know, they're going to be willing to take a look at different ways that we can make that happen as long as we get something done.
Do you think it's possible to get quality water in urban Iowa while still protecting production agriculture's interests?
Yeah. Well, everybody has a role in this. It's non-point and point in every version that's passed both houses regarding water quality. It addresses both point and non-point, and so all of us have a role to play. You know, over the last year, both the governor and I traveled to probably 50 different communities and farmsteads, and we highlighted the conservation practices that they're implementing on their farmstead to really talk about what we need to do, the importance of it, what our farmers and communities are already doing, and just highlighting again what's being done, and look for opportunities where we can do more.
Another issue that's very controversial right now in this state is the Department of Human Services and the deaths of these children in foster care. What are you going to do differently to fix that problem?
Well, we're going to continue to work with the Department of Human Services. We're going to review what's taken place. As we sat down over the past 5 months, as we've worked on a seamless transition for Iowans, I've had the opportunity to sit down with all of the directors of the various agencies. In that conversation, I've asked them, what are we doing right? What do we need to improve on? What's your innovative ideas for moving Iowa forward for your agencies? Are there ways that we can collaborate and deliver these services better? We should never be satisfied with the status quo. It's unconscionable what's happened to these young people. And so we have to do a there's also an investigation going on, so, you know, that's taking place, but internally we also need to take a look at practices and policies and look for areas that we can do things better.
Is it time for personnel changes in that
Well,
agency?
you know, we're going to make those decisions moving forward. Right now, we're focused on making sure Iowans, we have a seamless transition. That's our focus right now, and we'll be making those decisions in the next couple of days or in the days forward.
Here's another controversial issue that's on your plate. The Medicaid system and the way that gets paid for. A lot of controversy about that. You guys have tried to do something in your administration. A lot of people say that it's not working. What do you do about that system?
Well, I would challenge that. Actually, 39 other states have gone to managed care, and it's really about coordinating and managing care and working with our most vulnerable Iowans to make sure that they get the services that they need. This was a significant transition, so of course there's going to be bumps along the way. We've only been at this a little over a year. Every time an issue comes up that, you know, they contact our office, we've tried to, we've addressed that and made it better, but, you know, we want to continue to, of course, review that and look for ways that we can enhance it and make sure that Iowans get the care that they need and that they deserve. But, you know, we're not going backwards. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for Iowans. And so we just need to continue to be around the table, continue to look at how we're implementing managed care and look for opportunities to make it better. But we have more people covered today than we did before. We have people that are, the majority, more people getting annual health risk assessments, and that's really important. So we need to make sure that we're coordinating care and helping people get the services they need.
How difficult is it, Governor, to do a health care bill in Iowa when you have no idea what the federal government is going to do?
Well, what I do appreciate about the new administration is they've actually reached out to us several different times. We've actually gone out to Washington, D.C. and spoke before the Finance Committee, talking about what we needed, looking for ways that we could partnership, talking about potential block grants that were fair. You know, we don't want all of the expectations passed on to the states, but to give us some flexibility as well as accountability to really take care of Iowans. No two states are the same, and we need that flexibility, I think, to meet the needs of Iowans. We've also had the opportunity to work with Seema Verma, who is the head of the CMS. She helped us with our managed care program, along with several other states, and so we are very familiar with her. She's very familiar with what's going on in Iowa, and anytime you have relationships like that, it's helpful when you're looking at ways to partner together. This needs to be a partnership, and I appreciate, you know, the flexibility. We need to see what that looks like, but at least I feel like we have an opportunity to weigh in and talk about what Iowa needs and what's important to us, and we're going to continue to do that.
I want to ask you about tax policy. The legislature has started work on a tax bill. A lot of people wanted to do what they call a tax reform bill.
Yep.
Specifically, how do you feel about repealing federal deductibility, the ability Iowans have to deduct their federal taxes before they calculate their state income tax bill, lowering the tax rates, simplifying the tax system? How do you feel about those things?
Well, you know, from 2010, when we first ran for office, we talked about comprehensive tax reform, and we've just not had the revenue to really get where we want to get to. So you almost gave the talking points. It needs to be simple, fair, flatter, and we need to do that to be more competitive. That really is the next step for Iowa to continue to be competitive. Every governor in this nation is looking at ways that they can make that more simpler, and more competitive. I mean, what you need to do is, we can't do these one-offs. We need to sit down and holistically take a look at what that looks like. We'll be working on that over the interim. We'll bring legislators to the table, as well as experts and our various agencies, and then we'll start doing the runs and see what that looks like and see where we can get to.
But it's okay with you to look at the issue of repealing federal deductibility.
We need to look at everything.
I remember when Governor Branstad first raised that issue, and there were a lot of Republicans that raised Cain with him about it.
Yeah.
So is it okay with you to proceed with looking at the repeal of federal deductibility?
I think we need to look at everything. I think we need to put everything on the table, and we need to look at what we need to do to get to where we need to get to. And I think more people are, I think they're more open to that. I can remember when I was a county treasurer and in the Senate, that was not the sentiment at the time, but I think that's shifting. And as you look at states around this nation that are going, you know, to a lower, flatter, fairer tax, we need to really look at that to be competitive. I think we're in the game with so many other tools that are in the toolbox. This is really the next thing that we need to address to be competitive. That means jobs for Iowans.
Right. Does tax reform to you mean changing the tax system so we're more competitive? Or does it also include a tax cut? Should the state take less money from taxpayers? There's a big difference in my mind between tax reform and a tax cut. How do you...
And hopefully it will be both, you know. So of course, any time that we can let hardworking taxpayers keep more of their money, we're going to do it. And so that's, you know, and also there's so many variables right now, David, that has a role in this. You know, if they get something done at the federal level, that'll have an impact on what we're able to do here. So we're going to continue to work over the interim and, you know, take a look at where we're at and what we can do. We have to monitor revenues coming in. All of that plays a role. But, you know, anytime that we can lower taxes for Iowans so that they can keep more of their money, you know, that goes back into our economy, and that's the right thing to do.
So I'm clear. Your marching orders to the legislature as it works on this is that at the end of the day, we have to have lower taxes in this state. We have to take less money from the taxpayer. That's part of the deal.
And I would tell you that's probably their goal too. But my marching orders are not going, I mean, we're going to collectively sit down and work on this, and we have been. And so I look forward to them being a part of it as we work over the interim to take a look at what the art of the possible is. It's also really important when we do this, that it's sustainable and that we're able to honor the commitments that we've already made. So that's another really big key piece of comprehensive tax reform.
The administration and the legislature have had to cut spending the last couple of years. Are we at the end of that? Do you think the budget next year will give you some additional revenues to do things with?
Well, it looks better in 19, and we're monitoring it very closely, and we're going to continue to look for opportunities to grow our markets and to bring investment into the state. And so the last 2 months have been better, but we're going to continue to monitor that. But with the projection, the 5-year projections that we have in place, fiscal year 19 looks better than 18, but you know, we're going to continue to monitor it.
If you do have additional revenues, and we say if, what does Governor Reynolds want to do with the first new dollar she has? You want to cut taxes? Which program would you like to spend it on? If there is additional money coming in, where is your priority to spend it?
Well, we're going to, well, anytime we can reduce taxes, that's going to be a priority of mine. But I mean, that goes without saying. But we're going to, you know, we're going to take a look at where we're at. We're going to talk to Iowans. We're going to look at the numbers we have. In December, we'll sit down and we'll put the budget together and we'll put our priorities in place. And hopefully we'll have we'll have an opportunity with the condition of the state address to lay out what those priorities are. But there's a lot of things that need to take place between now and then that's really going to help build what that looks like. Tomorrow I'll lay out some of the broad priorities of what that looks like, but we're going to spend some time working with Iowans to finalize that.
There is a great deal of a political question now. There is a great deal of controversy over your selection of a successor to you as Lieutenant Governor. You've indicated you're going to go ahead and proceed and do that. Is that going to be something that's going to make the gears grind in state government, a controversy over whether you can appoint a lieutenant governor and to replace you?
Well, I haven't really said what that process is going to be. I've said we're evaluating it, we're looking at it, I've made a decision, but I have not laid that process out. And so on Thursday, we will be letting Iowans know how that process is going to move going forward.
One last question. It's been my agenda of questions. Have I overlooked anything here that's something that you feel is important that you want to do as governor that's going to be a priority for you?
Well, first of all, what an honor it has been to serve Iowans as the lieutenant governor and to work alongside Governor Branstad for the last 6.5 years. I've had the opportunity to be mentored by one of the best governors in the nation, and it's been a real honor to work alongside him. But I can't wait. I'm excited about the opportunity to serve as the governor of this state, to keep our economy growing, to keep our young people in Iowa. Kevin and I will have 9 grandchildren in August, and there are grandmas and moms all across this state that are cheering us on to help grow the economy and have quality jobs so we can keep our young people and our grandchildren in the state of Iowa, and that's a real motivator and driver for me.
How does it feel to be the first woman to hold this position?
Well, it's what an honor. It's so humbling to kind of be a part of it as it unfolds. There's a lot of great women that have gone before me, and hopefully I can, emulate the great things that they've done. We just lost a great champion for women with former Lieutenant Governor Joy Corning's passing. She, whenever we would have lunch or get together, she was so encouraging and helpful as we talked through things that she would like to see me do. And so Joni and Lieutenant Governor Joy Corning, and there's just a lot of great Speaker Upmeyer, Mary Mosman. So it's an honor, and what I know about all of them is it's not so much about the gender, but it's really about a passion to serve, and that's what drives me every day.
Well, Governor, we wish you well. Thank you for your time. Congratulations. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
It's been an historic week in state government, and the aftershocks are likely to be felt for years to come. For the entire Iowa Public Television staff here at the Statehouse, I'm David Yepsen, and thanks for joining us today.
Funding was provided by Friends, the Iowa Public Television Foundation,